So traders, what I'm looking for is a clean T10. We can see the short-term stochastic falling. We can see price attempting to push up, but after a good divergence trade. So I'm not in that trade. I don't like to take T1s after I have a good T19. So we can see here my short-term's rolling over. First target will be down around the 89 to 200. So I'm just waiting for this to roll over, and that'll also then form a lower high. So we can see that up here on the top right. So just patiently waiting. Another good signal we have here, notice that our platinum has dropped down below the zero line. We're coming up. Excuse me. Our long-term stochastic has fallen. Our our platinum has fallen, rolling over. We just formed a little double top here, so we may have a very good T10 setting up. So on the close, actually I should really be in there. It teach me for talking I actually should have entered now. In this particular case, I haven't waited for the zero leg to roll over. With my level of experience, I haven't worried about that. However, new traders, wait for your zero leg. It'll just keep you out of a lot of bad trades. So you can see I've got a 13 tick target. I'm going to drop my stop down to 10 ticks. 10 ticks is sort of like the minimum stop loss that I'll use. As you know, most of you know at least, that I always have my stop 2 ticks above the closest swing high or swing low. We're a little swing here, but prefer to keep it up a little high, give the market a little more room to move. So I'll just put this video on hold as we wait for this trade to deliver. So traders, we can see here that our T10 is slowly falling here in our trade direction. We can see here that we've had some nice divergence here, so actually it worked out to be a double top. Just got to be very cautious down here because we could have an 89 bounce form. So now looking at the high time frame, sort of the daily range, it's been a little all over the place today, so slightly trending on the long side, but a lot of indecision. So if I come down and bounce around this 89, I will move my target up from 13.6 up to around the 10 or 11, just because quite often we get these bounces around the 89, and particularly we've got a convergence here of the 89 and the 200. So I'll just put it on hold, and we'll just wait for some more action. Now another logical place for this trade to head to, of course, is the lower pivot. We can see down here. So we may see a bounce on our longer term, go back up, then eventually fall to the pivot. Of course, the market's a market. It does what it does. And the most important thing, of course, I trade in probabilities and I trade patterns. As a pattern trader, it makes trading a lot easier. I know my statistics, which gives me my probabilities, and I know my patterns, and that just makes trading a lot more enjoyable. So as a pattern trader, I'm just sitting back patiently waiting for patterns to appear, as we had a beautiful T10 pattern just here. Now we also had a T1 here, but when it's off a 19, we're always very cautious here. Now I'm going to bring my stop down, and here is why, traders. With good possibility we can always get a bounce, as I mentioned earlier, off the 89, which I'm not prepared to give anything back now. Here we go.
Filled.
So we're filled. That was 13 ticks, $65 a contract, $650 less brokerage on 10 contracts. Now hopefully this just really showed you how easy trading can be when you work on a rules-based methodology. So my long-term stochastic was down, I had a roll over my short-term, I was off a T19, all of the things. Now notice here, potentially we could have a little bounce here, as I mentioned, or we may drop down at the pivot. I like to have set profit targets myself. that suits my methodology. For a lot of other traders, like to trail their trades. Here we go. Now look at it pop through. Let's see what it does here on the pivot. Now this within itself, you can see there's a lot of pressure. This within itself may even form a T19. It won't suit for a number of other rules to a T19 or even a T89 it may form. Now by the way, I code my trades T1, T2s, T10s. It just makes it easier when I'm in a coaching scenario or running a seminar once traders understand what the codes are. So we can see here we're perhaps going to bounce on the pivot here. So I'm going to put this back on hold and we'll see what else happens further on. Just while I'm waiting for another setup, one thing I also want to say, traders, is my chart is very busy here. When you're trading, remove anything that you don't really need on the chart. That is, sometimes something may look good. Now by the way, this is a T98 we've got setting up here. Let's just see here if I get filled, and my target will be, let's see here, I'm going to be very very careful here because very good chance I'll have a T2 set up. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to, and I didn't get filled, drats, on all my contracts. Actually only one contract. So what I've just done, traders, is
order filled,
just closed out. And the reason I closed out and just snapped a very very quick little profit there was I've got a T2 setting up at the moment. So this is a T89. Now it may very well continue up just with the pivot up above. It just didn't meet my 100% trading rules, so I just did a quick scalp. As you can see, just jumping in and out there. But I'll wait and see what happens here. Oh, that's right. So going back, there are a couple of things here that I do need to have on my chart. My bottom window here, this window, my zero lag, my trigger line, and two longer term moving averages. Once you learn, and the way I train a brand new trader is we layer one indicator on at a time. After a while, of course, you develop what we call reflex action. You can recognize a trade setup in a blink of an eye. Now what we're waiting for, of course, is high probability trades. Now shamelessly, just while we're waiting for another setup, of course I've got to give a quick promotion of my just put one slide up here. Just if you're a newer experienced trader, I now have my fast track, my 30-day fast track trading program. For $197 you get 5 hours of recordings, all of my best day trading and swing trading strategies, easy to learn, step-by-step instructions, indicator settings, training manual, and email support. If you're serious about day trading, stop watching half the junk you see, stop looking for the holy grail. I've done it all for you. And by the way, I'm also releasing just a short video. It'll probably go for 30 minutes later on this week, just on all aspects of what I cover in the program. Now let me quickly go back here. I need to see what's happening. So $197. I'm doing this, traders, because I love trading. I love coaching. As most of you are aware, I only coach 10 to 15 hours a week because of my longer term commitments on some of the contracts that I have, and I day trade around 20 hours a week, around 4 hours a day, sometimes 3 hours a day maximum. So let me minimize this. Let's go back. Okay, we can see the market looks like it's still rising. I'm looking for a potential rollover, right? But I've got to go and check and see how the black gold is doing, how oil is going, so I need to put this back on hold. Just while I'm waiting for another trade setup, I just want to show you what I look for after almost identical after, let me get this right, sorry traders, it's 4:49 a.m. where I am getting a little weary. Gold's been fantastic, and if anyone here trades the YM, have a look at the 9 range. We've had some wonderful with trendline trades today using the T1. We've had 3 Absolute fantastic trades there of around 20 ticks each. So let's have a look at towards the market close yesterday morning, 24 hours ago around this time or an hour before. See here, off a high, I actually had a bearish wolf wave. I had a wave break, and let me just put back for those of you that use my, where are we here, the channel. Sorry if I'm all over the place, traders. Just get this up here. Just the channel. I like to show the channel here. We had a nice channel break here, and this was a T10. Now here I was going for 13 ticks, and I then had a nice little a T1 form, and I waited for the zero lag. Even though this other trade wasn't filled, I shorted the market again, and you can see here it delivered beautifully. Both trades were off a T89, so we'd had a great T89 trade. Then I shorted. Now even though we were right on the 89 EMA, you can see here we bounced off here, but quite often when you get these bounces off major divergence, they quite often fail. So here we hovered around. This is the zero lag had actually rolled over. I entered, see my exit, and then I had a T1, got in a little late, should have been on this candle, and I entered. So that was two $650 trades, 10 contracts each. Very nice trades there, or $65, $60 say per contract after you trade. Now remember, if your goal is $200 a trade, generally you're after 3 to 4 net trades a day. As most of you know, I'm what they call a sniper. I just sit back, once again, without wanting to repeat myself, I just wait for those key trade setups. And as I say to all traders, let me just point out what I did here. Where you get these major swing lows, it may continue to run, but what you've got to be very careful of is just the jumping before zero lag. But let me just point out, for the newer traders and even the experienced traders, if you want to have a slightly stress-free, wait for your zero lag to roll over. So you can see here your entry would have been on this candle here, and you had a T1, so you had a bounce off the pivot. So I jumped in on the T2. The market continued to rise. We then had a pivot bounce, and down we fell. Now we can see here that little, as I mentioned, my stop, and this gets back to trading too many things at once. If you are trading multiple markets, you're going to see this happens all the time, is that unless you're really focused, see that little double bottom there, my stop, and I had to move it up, and I think I ended up getting 11 ticks instead of 13 ticks, because it come down, it was within 1 tick, but I was below that little swing low. So you've heard me talk about this, on many of those on my client base have heard me talk about this virtually every day. I like to front run my targets. So I like to front run. Now this little scalp I got out of yesterday ended up delivering, but it wasn't ideal. And the reason it wasn't ideal, notice here that our entry there, we didn't have a perfect, what I call two hills platinum. That's why I didn't stick with that trade. Ended up delivering, but anyway, woulda, coulda, shoulda. So let me just do a quick recap here. Lovely T10, an 89 that did end up delivering, but it wasn't perfect, but it did deliver. I jumped in on a T2, eventually delivered. Just have a pivot bounce if you had waited, because the zero lag, which once again you hear me talk about, new traders particularly wait for the zero lag. Means at times you'll get in trades later, etc., but you'll be very glad you did. We can see here then we had a nice T1. Now the T1, if you're waiting for a T1 pivot bounce, sorry. Now what makes this one also good, let me point this out. Reason this is a great pivot bounce, look at my 89 and 200, they're also in a strong downtrend. So you can see here that that was really a pitch, that was just a beautiful trade to take. And I've just missed this trade, but we've also just had another T89, which the market's falling very nicely, and I'll have to go because I've got some things happening on the YM, and that's about to come. Let me just have a quick look. Sorry traders, just one moment. Okay, yep, it's about to deliver. Traders, I'm going to have to wrap this up because I've got a couple of different trades on at the moment. As you can see, traders, you know, if you've got a target of $200 a day, which is per contract, traders, I'm going to put this on hold. There's something I want to explain, but I've got to manage this other trade. Just be a sec. What I want to say, traders, just in closing, when as you know, my target is 200 per contract per day. I usually wrap that up within about an hour, get up to $340 per contract. I'm only willing to give back one trade, and that an average stop of 12-13 ticks at $60-65. That's all I'm willing to give up. The maximum stop you'll ever see me use is 14 ticks. So that's sort of my maximum I'm willing to give back. So if I'm up to say 350 and I give back 80, I will finish trading for that day. That's just what works for me. I know a brilliant trader out of Canada. He continues to trade all day because he tends to be up around $600 or $700 at least per day per contract, but he's willing to handle that. He's been trading for 20 years also from a psychological point of view. Now, getting back to the multiple markets, and let me just quickly flick this down once again. Come and get my program. You'll have all of this shown to you, my top 12 setups, and even register for my video, which is coming out, as I mentioned, in a few days time, might be 3 or 4 days time, which will explain my entire program. But getting back to this, we can see it's still fracked if you've got out at just 13 ticks each. So trading can be totally rules based. Don't make it difficult. And we just hit the low of the day.